Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this podcast. This is David Valenzuela with I Wish Podcast, bringing you another episode. I wish on today's podcast we could feature Griselda Cordova of Yuma Acne Clinic in Yuma, Arizona. We are going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about acne genetics, the genetic component of acne. We're going to talk about BPO, when it's a good time to bring people off BPO. We're going to talk about the microbiome. We're going to talk about building your first book of business. This is a great episode. I lovingly refer to Griselda's day job as her side hustle. She's a practicing attorney, and it's going to be great to hear how she balances that and her passion for aesthetics. So buckle up, you guys. Let's get into it. Griselda is a newer Wish Pro in Arizona. Welcome to the show, Griselda.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here today.
So you have I remember the very first time that we spoke, you have a very interesting path to aesthetics. Can you share a little bit with the listener about how this actually came to be, about your personal experience before aesthetics?
Yes. So I had nothing to do with aesthetics. Growing up, I'm from a rural community in Arizona, Yuma, a border town. So we are 30 minutes south and you're in Mexico. Then if you go west, like within 10 minutes, there's Los Algodones, Baja California, Mexico. And then 1 hour more and you're in Mexicali, Mexico. So we are a close border town. And growing up, my parents were immigrants and they worked in the fields. My mom then stayed at home and then she pursued cosmetology school. So she's a hairstylist. And that was my introduction into a little bit of the world of aesthetics. And she didn't go to school until I was like in high school. Okay. So that's me a little bit of growing up. Then I danced my whole life. I did ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, and then I taught ballet until I left to school, which we will get to in a bit. I worked through college at a lawyer's office. I was a paralegal, legal assistant, and I got an associate's. I did my bachelor's. I did a master's, and then I went to law school. And my last year of law school is when I decided that I wanted to do aesthetics as well, because my mom was thinking of opening like a salon and spa. And so I said, oh yeah, I'll be like your business manager, but let me like learn some of the lingo and I'll draw up your contracts and it'll all work out perfectly.
Yeah.
And so my last year of law school, I did law school, and then I started part-time aesthetic school at night. And then I switched over to full-time when my schedule was a little cleared up for law school. And I graduated from both aesthetic school and law school in May of 2014.
Wow. So a decade ago.
A decade ago.
It's been a
Yes.
decade. So at 10 years. Okay. I've heard a lot of unique stories. I had an esthetician that worked with us in Northern California who was an engineer for the city of Sacramento. And she's like, I'm just not passionate about it, David. I want to do aesthetics. I'm passionate about that. So your mom was like your introduction into, because she went to cosmetology school. So you got the bug a little bit. You're like, all right, I'm going to manage this. Tell us
Yes.
about your personal story. Everybody finds their journey into aesthetics in a different way. And I have a lot of practitioners being Wish and obviously having an acne focused program where they have come to aesthetics through their own personal stories. So will you share a little? So we're going to talk a little bit more about the law stuff because I love it and I'm very fascinated by it. But let's talk a little bit about the story that you shared with me about your own personal skin and the navigating path of what that looked like for you as a younger adult and going to school and like the money
Right.
aspect of it. But just share a little bit about that story because that's
Yes. So I started experiencing acne in sixth grade on my nose. And I mean, it started being very evident. At that time, my mom didn't know any better. She took me to a doctor in Mexico. Um, they gave me Accutane. I remember I took Accutane before I turned 15. So I took my first round of Accutane at 14. And back then, they don't know much about Accutane. They didn't know much about Accutane like they do now. Like now you
yeah,
could do 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams every other day or twice a week and still get the same results. But
yeah,
back then they were pumping us with 60 milligrams or 80 milligrams once or twice a day. So I remember doing 1 or 2 rounds throughout high school of those like 60 milligrams, and where they're taking out my blood multiple times. And then throughout my adult life, I think I did another 3 rounds of the smaller dosages. So my acne was so severe. It was cystic. It was all over. I still have scarring from it. Um, it'll get better, but it won't ever go away. And that's a reminder of essentially how far I've come, and that it can definitely be controlled without those pills. But I had acne throughout my whole high school, through college, but it's been pretty much controlled. And then I kind of found that I could do it without prescription medications. And that's when kind of Yuma Acne Clinic already formed. And when I went to aesthetic school, that was really what I wanted to go for. Like, I'm just going to treat acne. And that's
Yes.
why the name is just Yuma Acne Clinic.
Yep.
Because it affected me emotionally, socially, mentally. It was one of the most awful times in my life. And growing up as a teenager, unfortunately, teenagers sometimes are not the kindest persons. And there's one thing that stuck to me, and in high school, that one of my friends told me, and she's like, "Oh my God, Griselda, you would be so pretty if only you didn't have acne." And I am 37 years old, and that happened when I was 15. So what's that, like 20 something years ago? And it stuck to me. It still has stuck to me. And I never want someone to feel like that, because you are way more than acne, right?
Yes.
And so when people ask me, well, you don't even have to do that. You have a job and your husband has a job, because my husband's also a lawyer. But I don't do it for that. Like at my job, I'm a public servant. I'm a deputy county attorney. So I serve the government. I serve the state. I keep our community safe. But when I go to the aesthetic room, I'm still a public servant to that person. I'm still helping them feel better. And at the end of the day, if their self-esteem is better and their mental health is better, then we have a better society. And they're going to be also very good contributors to this society,
Yes.
because they're going to be happy. They're not going to be depressed. They're not going to be at home. They're going to want to go out and do stuff. And I mean, it's just so fulfilling. I don't get a lot of thank yous on my side of job because I'm on the prosecution side, but I get so many thank yous in the treatment room and in my clinic from people that I'm able to help with acne. So that's kind of how it all came about.
I mean, such a huge. So, do you know the origin where Accutane originated from?
From my research, I think it's an actual chemo drug.
Or
And
blastoma?
so
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's what I was taking, at such a young age, multiple times. And I mean, I have gut issues from that still. I developed IBS. Thankfully, I didn't develop the bigger issues that some people did, like they've had their colons removed and stuff.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was lucky in that regard, but I still have, very fragile skin, fragile hair, and I've worked really, really hard to rebuild my, inner health, outer health, and just kind of move past that. And so, yeah, it's very potent. And I
Yeah.
think in very severe cases, it may be warranted, but you have to try everything else before that.
Hi, everybody. This is David Valenzuela with a shout out reminder to click the subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment, question. We love it all. This episode has been generously sponsored by Wish Skin Health, which is focused on the holistic treatment of acne without the need for potentially harmful prescription medication. If you are looking to level up your aesthetic practice with a sustainable business model focused around acne, we would love to have you as a certified Wish Pro. To learn about how to join the family, visit trywish.com. That's trywish.com. Click on the professional tab for further details. Now let's get back to the episode. Yes. So when you told me this story originally, when we first spoke, this is the reason why I chose acne out of all of the things in the industry that we could be focused on. We know the industry has a big I don't use the terminology anti-aging. Everything's anti-aging, aging. And the acne category is sort of, it's there, but it's usually in the mix of a brand of like a couple of products that will be like, okay, yeah, we have that to treat acne, but it's not focused. And as you know, going through aesthetic school, going through law school, you didn't have the exposure really, even in aesthetic school, of like all the drugs that are used to treat acne. So estheticians, we're in some of the same forums on Facebook, and it gets a little heated when people start talking about acne. And it is just about education, educating our clients, our potential clients, on what the options are, as opposed to going straight into, I have to go to Accutane. So my dermatologist friends, Griselda, this is where we get into such heated conversations. So, and I love it because I'm like, yes, maybe I should have been an attorney, because I'm like, yes, we're going to have a discussion. And I'm also an Aries, so that whole another thing, it added on top of it. But it's usually based off of exposure and experience. So whatever their patient population is, if they have a 14-year-old that comes in with terrible acne, they just want a solution right out of the gate. The physician is not necessarily going through it. These are the potential side effects. You get that for sure when you pick up your prescription. People maybe glance over it, but they're not interested in reading it and understanding this could actually happen to me, because there's a whole psychological component to that. But we have trained the world of dermatology that this is how you treat acne. So you're either going to get some form of an antibiotic, if you're female, spironolactone, maybe a topical prescription retinoid, or Accutane. And all of the research, so I read the medical journals, like get some sort of an article every day. But the dermatology world, I think it was like 6 months ago, they published an article about the overprescribing antibiotics for acne. When you look at the prescription of antibiotics for the United States, the field of dermatology is way exponentially higher than the rest of the physician population in the US, specifically around prescribing antibiotics for acne. So what we're having now is we're starting to experience antibiotic resistance. Now, the thing that's interesting, and did you ever take antibiotics too, or was it just Accutane?
Everything. Antibiotics, spironolactone, clindamycin.
You did it all.
Everything. Everything, tretinoin. I've done everything.
So in your experience, when you went through the first round, second round, so you had some results, you started to see your acne going down. When you stopped the medication, what was the time period before your acne started coming back?
About 9 months to a year. My skin would be perfect, ecstatic. I would be so happy. And then it would come back.
So the Accutane, what I found with the Accutane population is it's really about the strength of the dosage, how long they were on it. If they do usually 1-2 rounds, we start about 90 days post. They start to see some things in their skin again. Obviously, the oil production starts to regulate again, and their acne starts coming back. Antibiotics, usually a little bit quicker. Finished round of antibiotics, usually 6 weeks, they're like, okay, what's going on again? And back to the dermatologist again, trying to get another prescription, another round. And this is when we initially did put the course together. I had a dermatologist review it. One of my friends, he actually owned a bunch of clinics in Florida. He's now lives in Hawaii. And he was like, David, I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't learn any of these things. So the microbiome, which I know every brand talks about the microbiome now, I feel like we brought this to the forefront of the industry, talking about microbiome health, because they knew internal microbiome, but topical microbiome wasn't even started to be looked at, even in dermatology, until 2014. So you're graduating from law school, graduating from aesthetic school, they're just starting to realize we have an ecosystem of bacteria on our skin, and we should probably start studying that. So when I started doing the research, I started looking at what is the difference between a healthy microbiome, which is also directly related to barrier function, and what's going on when you have acne in the skin. And then it started going into dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, acne. Obviously, your microbiome's out of balance. Something's not functioning correctly. So the thing, you guys, is that the estheticians that are listening to this is where education is so valuable to you and your practice and what you're doing every day. Because you're going to have clients that come to you and they're going to say, I'm on spironolactone, and you need to know what that is. You need to know if they're taking Accutane, what the side effects potentially of you doing a treatment. I don't know how much, I know you're busy, so you don't have time to be looking at this stuff, but there was a big sound off in the group, Money Making Esthetician, like 2 weeks ago, about a client that was on Accutane. And the acne post gets so heated so quickly, like, you can't treat that. That's out of scope. Send them to the doctor. What? And I'm like, this tells us again how much education is so important for this aspect of the industry. But the basically the majority of to summarize the comments, it was really about, you can't treat that client because they're on Accutane. And my response has always been, sometimes I have to like catch my tongue and like, I'm like, David, don't go in there. Don't do it. Don't do it. Is everybody's skin is one size fits one. This is what I say over and over again. One size fits one. So if you do have a client that's on Accutane, you need to understand what dosage, how long have they been on it, and do a consultation and look at their skin up close. We had a client in Hawaii. We were doing a training last year. She was taking Accutane, and the esthetician was like, David, I don't think I can do this peel on her. She was really, really nervous. I said, okay. So I walk into the room. I'm asking her how long she's been on it, like what's going on with her skin. She was still putting out a very substantial amount of oil in her skin. It's Hawaii. It's humid. And I said, we're going to do a tolerability test. And if you feel any irritation, then we won't do the treatment. She got her peel. She was fine. Now, I'm not going to come out with the manual and be like, okay, everyone's on Accutane, you can do a peel. And like, I'm not going to say that because it's not true. But you have to look at the client and ask the questions and do the analysis to make sure that they're actually, maybe they're not suited for a treatment. Could you do a hydrating, calming facial? Of course. You know, if the texture of the skin is very frail, you're not going to be doing crazy extractions. You're not going to beat that client up. But a general question like that, I always have, 50 more questions. And if you don't have all the responses to that, I'm like, you got to go and do some more research. So I'm sorry that you went through what a lot of clients did. There's groups on Facebook that are dedicated to isotretinoin survivors.
I'm in there. I'm
Oh, you're
part
in
of the
there.
group.
Okay. So some of the stories, Griselda, the parents,
Right.
obviously, anybody losing their child to depression or suicide is a massive, massive thing. And I know it's complex and there's a lot of things in there. I did a podcast webinar maybe like 6 months ago. We had pulled all of this information from the FDA, like all the adverse events that were reported. And there's also been some journals that have posted like, oh no, Accutane doesn't lead to depression, or they're trying to discount it. But I'm like, think about, you yourself, like when you take a medication, if you have a negative side effect, you usually just stop taking the medication. You might just not even go back to the doctor and say, I had a negative side effect to this. You just stop taking it. For your side effects to be so great that you actually report it to the FDA, you take the time to say, this happened to me, hair fell out, my joints are hurting, I'm depressed, my kid is not acting right. That's a lot. So I know that it was over 17,000 reported adverse events with Accutane for a specified period of time. And I'm thinking, you know what? Those are the people that actually took the time to report an adverse
Yeah,
event.
I never reported it, but here's a twist to that too, David. So these are people, I mean, we're desperate,
Yes.
And so when you couple that with a couple of months of maybe, yeah, I'll be depressed, my hair's going to fall out, my nose is going to bleed, but I'm going to have clear skin. That's the lengths we're willing to go to clear our skin, because that's how much acne can affect a person. I mean, I have clients in the treatment room crying, saying, oh, it just hurts. I can't do this. I can't go out. I'm just pretty much locked in the house. And then once they're clear and they're like, last year I didn't want to take Christmas pictures and now I'm looking forward to it. It's just the change 180, like
Yes.
just a different person. They're smiling. Sometimes even in my before and afters, I mean, you can just see so somber in the first picture, and then they're just smiling with their little goggles on.
Yes.
But when you're that desperate, you don't think about those side effects. And that's where we need to be educated, because we should think about those side effects. And at the end of the day, the way Accutane works, it completely gets rid of your oil production. And that is one way to treat acne, because you need the
Yep.
oil and you need the bacteria.
Yep.
But then the other way, with like Wish products or any other acne products in the market, you're regulating the microbiome. You want to have a healthy skin, because if you have healthy skin, your skin will repair. You got to love your skin. And I always tell my clients, we don't think about it this way. Our skin is an organ. It's the largest organ we own. Our
Yep.
heart is an organ, our liver is an organ. Sometimes we're like, well, we're not going to drink that much because that's going to affect my liver, or I need to exercise and all of this stuff. But we don't treat it as such. It's just so secondary unless we have an issue. And so I always say you have to give so much love to your skin. We have to be so empathetic to our skin, because if we treat it well, it's going to respond. And I think that's the difference between when you're treating with Accutane, a very harsh product that can give you results, but then you're treating everything else holistically, because that will make you not be depressed. That will make you a better person. You'll be happier. You'll be socially acceptable, which is a very
Yes.
sad thing to say, but you don't feel socially acceptable when you have acne. And when it's
Yes.
gone, you do feel socially acceptable. But that just brings so much value to a person when they feel good about themselves.
The such amazing, yes, amazing information. There's studies out there about people's compensation, about people interviewing for jobs with full faces of acne, not getting hired, less employment opportunities. I think I have one of my estheticians who, she said a similar thing. She had a client come in and she just cried for 35 minutes, like uncontrollably. And she was like so affected by this. She's like, David, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm not equipped for this. It's like, you know what? Everybody, because she's an adult woman, she's in her 40s. And she's like, why do I have acne? Like, why is this happening to me? Dramatic. And I get it. So when we are pushing a narrative of human potential, what is your potential? What would your life be like going through high school without having acne? What does your personality look like? As we look into 2025 and looking at how we actually talk about the brand and Wish and like what it means, it's not only potential for the esthetician, the aesthetic provider, like for their business. Of course, there's a business aspect of this, but the emotional, mental health change, clear face, change of life thing is what you said about the picture. Well, I get pictures every weekend. Someone's sending me pictures on the weekend about, oh my gosh, David, look at this. I can see the emotional toll in the first picture with acne. And then of course they're smart, but their aura around them, their energy looks completely different just from a before and after photo. I'm like, this is just a picture. So how they're moving through life is very, very different than trying to hide. Don't want to take pictures. Don't want to go outside. Like, why is my acne like this? Mad at yourself, embarrassed. The other thing that is such a mental health component to this is people are embarrassed that they have acne. And we're like, listen, we get into so this is, we'll talk a little bit more about this cost thing, and then we'll go into some of the questions, because I have a bunch of stuff I want to ask you. But the genetic component. So, we of course we're all on Instagram, we're all on social media, right? And you have the girl with a beautiful Instagram page, and she's gorgeous, and she's out in the field, and she's like, I drank green juice and my acne went away. And I'm like, girl, okay, this is probably not I get your Instagram is beautiful. I understand why you're doing it and why you're talking about that. But giving somebody the narrative that they're going to clear their acne with drinking green juice is false. It's a false premise. Anybody with true acne knows that they're not just going to drink green juice, their acne is going to go away. It might help a little bit, it might bring some inflammation down, but it's not going to be the whole picture. So the most recent heated debate I got into with a naturopathic doctor was over food, internal gut health, and topical skin health. And this individual believes that acne is an internal skin condition that can be treated by diet. Now, they're not in the United States, so they have different things. And I was like, listen, let's have a conversation about this, because food, your diet, of course, is a contributor. If you're spiking your insulin constantly, high glycemic diet, a lot of, processed foods, you're drinking a lot of alcohol, of course, you're going to have this. It's going to wreak havoc on your body in other ways. But the thing that nobody wants to talk about, or nobody wants to agree with me on, is genetics. All of my research, Griselda, every medical journal document I've ever read, there is either on the mother or father side, somewhere in the family tree, acne is present. And so this is you have to tell me if you think I'm crazy when I say this, but my new analogy about this is, if let's say you have type 1 diabetes, there's a genetic predisposition for you to have this. Somebody in your family may have had it. You have type 1 diabetes. we understand that you are going to have medication. You're going to have insulin dependency for the rest of your life based off of your genetic predisposition for this disease. Some people have autoimmune disorders that are genetic. Like there's a genetic component to acne that people want to argue about. And so when we were talking about where people are at, like what life stage they're at for when they have acne. And so if you had it as a teenager, so there's women that come into the fold and they're like, I never had acne, David, as a teenager. Why am I having it? I'm 38. Why is this happening to me? I'm like, okay, well, you have a hormonal component to it because hormones are affecting so much of everything. But we discount the genetic component. So my body is saying, I'm going to respond to C. acnes bacteria. I'm going to have a larger inflammatory response. So the oil, the skin shedding too quickly in combination with the bacteria, your skin is like, for lack of a better term, programmed to react that way. So when we start talking to clients, like, yes, you can lower your glycemic index. Of course, if you're not going to have a bunch of androgens floating around in your body all the time, you're going to regulate your oil production. It's not going to aggravate your sebaceous activity so much. Yes, it's going to be helpful, but we wouldn't have thousands of cases of people clearing their face, using topical products, getting professional treatments, having chemical exfoliation, getting extractions, using properly formulated products for acne-prone skin. If it was just an internal skin issue, an internal like that issue, I'm like, it's part of it. It's part of the equation. What are your thoughts? So when you have obviously you can speak from a place of experience because you're like, I already went through these medications. I understand. The spironolactone thing is interesting too, because I feel like specifically in the United States, we love to treat symptoms. So Lipitor last year was the number one prescribed medication in the US for cholesterol. And people want to take Lipitor and go to McDonald's still and not like change their diet. I was like, this is such an American thing. So I was walking through Whole Foods with my business partner's father, and I call him out on this because I was getting a juice and I was like, I just wanted the kale and the spinach. I was like, I feel like I'm getting a cold, like I need a boost, but I didn't want the high sugar to take the apple outright. And I was like, do you want to try this? And he goes, oh, no, I can't drink that. I'll mess with my blood pressure medication. And I'm like, what do you think your blood pressure medication is doing? It's actually, this is a naturally like will lower your blood pressure. Kale and spinach like has natural anti-inflammatory properties to it. We're not making the connection. We think that we need to take the drug over all the mother nature and all the healthy food options that we have available to us. Like, it makes me crazy. So as we continue to carry the torch forward, when you see a client that comes in with acne, how responsive are they to you talking to them about their diet?
I leave it towards the end of a consult on purpose because by then we've talked about, products and what they're using and everything they've done that didn't work. So now at the end, we're like, before that, let me tell you, I do 100% agree that there's a genetic component to that. I have genetically defective pores through my father's side. Okay.
Yeah.
My
Good
mother's
terminology.
side, my mother's side, nobody has acne. My father's side, a lot, and I'm Mexican, so I have a lot of cousins to count for, and
Same. Me too.
they do have a lot of acne. My dad has scarring. My dad had lots of oil production. However, he looks very young, so that's the the pro that
Yeah.
we look younger because we have so much oil, and it just takes forever to kind of dissipate as we're getting older. But I do agree with the genetic portion of it. So that is one of my questions I always ask him. Does anybody from your mother or his father's side have acne or had acne growing up? That's practically my first question when I have him in the treatment bed or when I'm doing a consult. And for the most part, I want to say 90% of the people will say yes, my mom or my dad. So I'm like, okay. So I know they will have a genetically defective pore. And what does that mean? That means that we're going to be able to control it. But if you're not constantly using your products, it's going to come right back up. Whereas when we have a teenager that might just be going through puberty, I have so much hope for them that it will eventually go away once the hormones kind of calm down. So that is something that I do believe in. As far as diet, lifestyle, and everything, I do think it plays such a huge important role. But we are in a country where instant gratification is everything. I want you to take my acne away with just these products, but I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to stop, drinking dairy. I don't want to stop drinking my Celsius. I don't want to stop not eating chocolate. But then when this is what I tell them, let's just try and lower your sugar, your salt intake, and your dairy intake. Let's start there. And then as we're progressing and their skin's clearing up, they slowly are the ones that are discovering, hey, so I had like ice cream and then like I broke out like horribly for the next week. Bingo. So that's your trigger. Not everybody's trigger is going to be the same one. For me, it's dairy.
Yeah.
For other clients, it's soy. For other clients, it's peanut butter. For other clients, it might be something completely different that might not actually be an acne trigger to anybody but them. And so that's what I tell them. We're going to make sure you're going to be your own expert, your own acne detective, and you're very different from this other person. There is no, your trigger's my trigger.
Yes.
It could be, but it's not. So we treat everybody individually, and we're kind of in a journey to find out what is the cause of your acne. And so that's kind of how I approach it. But when I used to be very strict with them in the beginning of doing this, there I felt like I lost some connection with them when I was like, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that. So now I kind of just go and say, try and lower this, this, and this, and these are alternative options. And even on my page, because I am dairy free, I will put like, oh, look, I just found this yogurt and it's acne safe. Or I just found this milk and it's acne safe. Or I just found these ice cream bars. And they really appreciate that. And they'll like, go buy it. They'll screenshot it and buy it. So that's kind of how I now handle the lifestyle triggers and food with my clients.
Yes, it's such a huge thing. So that I love that you leave it towards the end of the consult so you get all their stuff and they're like, wait a minute, I have to do something? Yes, you
Yeah.
do.
And actually, you have to do a lot. I said, you do 80% of the work. I do 20% because I can't be with you every day. I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to give you everything to be successful, but it is 100% up to you. And usually the clients that we get, I mean, they've done it all, or they're just tired and they don't want to deal with it. So they are the ones willing to put in the work. And that's how you get good success rates. So you also have to be very careful with the clients that you're choosing to, because that is your, your business, your reputation. And sometimes if my clients are not ready, I say, it's okay. We have all these other treatments. Let's start somewhere. And when they're ready, they'll ask you.
Yes. So I love it. I love everything you just said. The meeting the clients where they're at. So you are going to have you guys listing you're going to have clients that are willing to say, yes, I want to cut out everything. I'm willing to do anything. Like, yes, I need my acne to go away. You'll have that extreme client. You'll have we'll call them moderately, I don't want to call them lazy, moderately like set in their ways, we'll say, that's willing to say, okay, maybe I'll have an oat milk latte as opposed to a dairy-based latte. And let's just try to cut some dairy out of lower the cheese intake, don't eat sushi, like just try to mitigate some of the things that we know are top line triggers. And then you're going to have the client that's not willing to do anything. They just want to come in. They want to do their treatments. They want to use their home care. Their skin is going to improve. What I have seen so far, Griselda, is their skin will improve faster if they're willing to make some adjustments in their diet.
Right.
So,
and I do tell them that. I say, you're going to see improvements. Maybe we'll get 70 to 80% better. So sorry about that. Let me see.
no worries.
I am still at my other job. I said, maybe you'll get 80% better, 70% better, but we're not going to get 100% better. And if you're okay with that, it's about expectations. Then game, If you're not okay with that, then we're going to have to make some changes, and that's going to be up to how far you're willing to go in this journey. Like I said, for the most part, they've all gone through it all. They tried it all, and they are willing to do that. But it's really about compromise and them willing to put in the work.
And meeting your clients where they're at. So we're not going to get crazy and tell them out there. We're not going to treat them like we're going to slowly coach them along the way, like all that fun stuff. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about now so there's been a little bit of, I know we've had an interesting economy this year. Every time we're in an election cycle, it gets to be a little bit interesting. I get it. I was talking about it in 2023. I'm like, get your business prepared. We're going to go through this. The economy always has some ups and downs. An election year is every 4 years. Like, I get it. This is always, of course, a very interesting year. But what is your, what I am encouraging new estheticians is I don't want people to feel shame in if they have I was in that email last night, I said, I was like, your side hustle as an attorney. But if they have something else that leads them to the path of like where they're building their business. So people graduate from school, they go and they rent their solo suite right out of the gate, and then they crash and burn in 6 months because they don't know how to get clients. They don't know how to have, they don't, all the things like the questions. I have to have a resale certificate. Wait, I'm supposed to have insurance, like all the stuff that you didn't get in school. So what is your advice to new estheticians coming up, like when they're graduating from school? Like, I'm trying to destigmatize that a side hustle is not a bad thing. If you need to work at Sephora, Ulta, we've got waitresses, bartenders, like whatever you need to do to supplement your income as a way to like get your aesthetic business building and growing and thriving versus jumping straight in. There are cases where people jump straight in and they just right out of the gate, they go for it. But I hear a lot of like complaining. So what's your advice for a newer esthetician that's coming into the world of aesthetics? What's the path that you would recommend?
If I could do it all over again, I would work for someone for a couple of years and work for someone that has an established business, of course, because from there, you're going to learn business practices, you're going to learn customer service, you're going to
Yes.
learn retail, and you're not going to have to worry about your overhead. That would be ideal, right? If you're able
Yeah.
to do that. If you're not able to do that and you still want to start your own thing, save up money before if you can, work whatever job you need to. I'm known estheticians who work two jobs. They might be a waitress or they might work at a call center, and then at night or during the day or vice versa, they'll work their aesthetics. But here's the thing, when you want to go solo, you're gonna be solo. Okay. So you gotta hustle. You gotta
Yes.
hustle. Um, I remember, and again, people ask me, well, why are you doing this? I'm passionate. I like it. If not, I wouldn't do it, obviously. But if someone needed one product and it was a Sunday, I would drive 20 minutes from my house to the spa to give them that $20 product that I might only make $10, which was my
Yep.
gas, you know?
Yeah. Right.
But that's what you do. You gotta, it's customer service, it's appreciation of your clients, it's letting them know how thankful you are that they're supporting your small business if you want to go solo. But if you can, I suggest you work for someone, and it could be 2 or 3 years, and you can start saving money, and you can start seeing, you will learn from that person what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Because we all do things that are good and we all do things that are bad, and we all need to improve. We're not all perfect in our business.
It's so I think that everybody has their journey. I think part of it is having a plan, right? If you've got the resources, understanding how much money it costs to like get yourself set up, how much money am I going to just forecast? Because everybody always is very optimistic in their forecast. Anytime you do a business plan, you put together a business plan, you don't put down like, it's going to take me 3 years to turn a profit. You're like, oh, we're going to get this much business. Whatever, I get it. But it is great advice. And if you're listening to this and you're a newer graduate, I would just consider, don't feel less than if you need to have another position or going to work for somebody that has more experience than you. It's valuable and it's learning, and you take it with you and you can grow and you can thrive, and you don't have to go through such the hurdles of like, just learn from other people's best practices of what not to do so that you can just kind of skip over that part and just get really educated and yes, get educated. So Griselda, how did you hear about Wish? Where did Wish come into your consciousness?
So I'm constantly, obviously, reading all about acne, listening to podcasts on acne. So you came up on the podcast, and then I just started looking up what is this Wish company,
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I stumbled upon you. And like I said, I was a solo esthetician up to 2 weeks ago, because I just have my
I
new
love that.
hire. So um, when you're solo too, it's lonely. It's a lonely world, and the only way you kind of get excited, because everybody burns out, right? Is by continuing your education. So I strive to listen to podcasts, on the drive to work. I strive to see what's out new there, any research paperwork. I also try and do any Zoom classes that are available for free, because normally they're done during lunch. And so that's when I can actually do them. If I don't have time since to travel, I
Yeah.
try to go to the trade shows at least one a year. And then I try to be in touch with my reps. And then I also try and talk to other estheticians here in the community who are also solo estheticians, because if not, like I said, it's a very lonely world. And so you do need to find your collaboration. And that's aside from my friends in the legal world or anyone else. Like, they're not going to understand the aesthetics world like those estheticians and those people. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon Wish, because I'm like, okay, I've had these certifications. I need something more. I need something to set me apart, because here where I am is a very small community, and I was the first acne expert specialist
Yeah.
that, how we call ourselves. And so now there's a couple more using one of the brands that I currently started with. And so I'm like, nope, I got to set myself apart now. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to be certified through Wish. So I'm
Yes.
I'm the first one here. I mean,
Yep.
in a couple years, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure you will grow very, very drastically, David. And that's great. And so then, we just got to keep pursuing the next best level of education. And, I kind of do like school a lot. So as it
Well,
shows. So I
I
continue
love that
trying to educate.
getting through law school is no joke, obviously. Passing the bar, no joke. I mean, I have friends that are attorneys and that I know from when they were back in like going to Berkeley Law School, like, and just I'm like, I don't think I have the patience for that. I don't think I could pass the bar. Maybe that's probably not for me. It's a lot, but I think also in whatever field you're in, whatever industry you're in, your learning is never going to end. I mean, the law is like an endless, it's never ending. So you always have something to learn there. But aesthetics, as the technology changes, as the knowledge changes, as information comes out about ingredients that will support microbiome health, barrier function, like these things I love it and I'm passionate about it. So it's not work to me. It's time consuming. Yes. There's a lot of anyone that's ever read through a 30, 40 page anything, an article on something, and then you're getting to the summary and like, does this make sense? You're taking, research abstracts and looking at them and saying, making an objective opinion about something, maybe two physicians having a completely different point of view on the exact same topic. And this is where we get when we're Chat GPT had just come out when we were doing the course, like literally maybe like 2 weeks before we were knee deep in the course. And I would type in some questions and it would give the exact wrong answer. Now it's come a long way. I know it's learning and artificial intelligence, but I was like, we have to pull from the NIH, we have to pull from the FDA, we have to go to the ADA. Like we need to get a bunch of different reference points on things and then making a decision based off of what is the leading information for aesthetics, for acne. This person is talking about this, but there's other things involved in that. So it's not necessarily focused. And I'm like, make the decision to include that information. Now, because the information is changing so rapidly, you have to go back and constantly revise. So the next course revision that you'll get, we're working on in January, is going to have more in-depth on purging. What does this mean when a client purges? How do I manage this? The client's freaking out. The products are freaking out. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about when is the right time to take my client off of a BPO? How do I take them off of BPO? Like, what's the right time to do that? So these are the questions. So I've just been compiling, Griselda, all the questions that have come at us since we launched Pro and compiling it, doing research on it. And then I'm going to tell you some really exciting things when we stop recording, because I've learned to keep my mouth shut now about talking about things that I'm launching. So I'll tell you some cool stuff. So talking about the field of aesthetics overall, since you started in aesthetics a decade ago, what trends do you think, what trends do you see in aesthetics right now that you're currently observing, good or bad?
So the toys, right? We all want those shiny toys that some of us can't afford. Um, and I mean, I want them too. I love them too. But I think, especially if you're starting out, we can't forget that we can do so much with our hands. And yes, and in school, yeah, you have some of those toys and you get to play around with them. But my teacher, I went to the Skin and Makeup Institute in Peoria, Arizona. Shout out to Miss Jackie. She told us, I'm going to teach you how to do a facial if you're a poor esthetician, and I'm going to teach you how to do a facial if you're a rich esthetician. Because you need to learn how to do everything with your hands if you can't afford all of these nice things that we all want. And so powerful. I mean, she's the one who taught me how to extract, like, with the Q-tips, with the gauze, with the extractor tool. Like, I learned three
Yeah.
different ways just coming out of
Nice.
school. And a
Yep.
lot of aesthetic schools, I mean, you don't get that. She actually was the teacher, and she ended up buying the aesthetic school. So I think she was very passionate, and I got very lucky that I had her as an instructor, along with other great instructors too. But don't lose focus of that, and don't get all caught up in those trends, because they are trends. And as great as they are, like for me, it doesn't make sense to invest, for example, in a hydrofacial. While I love it, I'm treating acne, and I would only use it once they're clear, essentially, or around the nose. So to me, that is not a suitable investment for me. Maybe a acne laser machine would be suitable for me. You know what I mean? Find the expensive LED, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you gotta see what your focus is in your aesthetics field. If you're a waxer, well, then you buy the very bougie wax, and you buy the really good the machine to warm up your wax pad right away. You get your wax pad or whatever it is. So whatever industry of aesthetics you're in, just try and find the best tools for that. But don't be all caught up in like, I need to get this because everybody around me is getting it. You don't know their finances. You don't know if they're putting everything on credit. And you also don't want to put yourself in a financial burden because you just don't want to be left out. Because I've seen those trends come and go, and yet I'm still here standing with and without them. So you can
Yes.
still have a good, successful business without it. Would it have been nice to have it? Would I have gotten money out of it? Absolutely. But now, in retrospect, I'm glad I just didn't, go right into that, because I probably would be in debt right now.
So we participated in a couple trade shows this year, and I was having a little bit of an issue with things that were out of scope. I'm like, these are mostly California estheticians at this show, and I was like, that is not in scope. I can guarantee you right now that. And the California Board of Cosmetology had a booth, and they wanted to move to get away from them because they knew their stuff was out of scope. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But I saw girls, the hydrofacial booth. They're like, oh, we just do a soft credit check. I could hear it as I was walking by, and I'm like, oh, there's a whole thing. Hydrofacial, obviously it's been around since 1999. I actually interviewed with them after Face Reality, before the pandemic started. They wanted me to move back to San Francisco. I'm like, I just moved to Palm Springs. I'm not moving again, thank God, because the pandemic started like 5 months later. I was like, that would be terrible. Then I had dogs at that point. I'm like, no, can't do it. There is a place and time for the shiny bells and whistles, but your hands are your ultimate modality, and you don't need them. Specifically with acne, I've been seeing a whole bunch of stuff about people doing microneedling, people wanting to do more PSA, people wanting to do all these things that are puncturing the skin, and they're like, oh, well, it can't spread bacteria, it's killing the bacteria. And I'm like, it's just not a best practice. I understand you guys, when you're looking at modalities and you're looking at investing in something, they're going to tell you that it does a lot of things and it's going to be like the greatest, shiniest object. You need to do your own research and make sure that you're not going to put yourself in debt, because some of these things, that from the last show that I did was like 2016. And then I went and did a show in 2022. And I was like, there has been next level machines everywhere, 5, 7, 15,000, 20, 30, $40,000. And I'm like, this was okay. We just need to get away from the fact that you can do a lot with your hands, and when you can add those modalities at a later time to treat post-inflammatory pigmentation, maybe some scarring issues. Yes, of course, but don't put yourself bankrupt over a trend, because my gosh, there's a lot of options out there, like craziness. So when you decided to create an acne clinic, Yuma Acne Clinic, what was the precursor to that? Did it originate as Yuma Acne Clinic, or did you start somewhere else? It did.
No, that was in aesthetic school. We actually had a final where I told you my school was awesome. One of our finals was to create a business plan. as if we were going to go solo right out of aesthetic school. And so at that time, I already knew that's really why I went into aesthetics, because I wanted to treat acne. I didn't care about waxing. Obviously, I had to do it to pass, but you know, that's not my forte. um, so I already knew I wanted to do that. It was like coming up with the name, and they made us, okay, so what are you gonna do? Where can you get where would you get your licenses? Like, how do you start up an LLC? So I had a business plan, my budget, everything, how even the little salon would look, which it looks nothing like that. But at least the premise, the name, the LLC, my budget, all that I had. So I already knew. So even though I didn't start Yuma, the actual name, Yuma Acne Clinic, till maybe 5 years ago. Before that, my mom had a spa, and that's where I worked out of. I did submit all my LLC, so I had the name. And so I knew that's where I was heading into automatically. So, but that doesn't happen for everybody. It's just like I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew that there was nothing like it here other than the dermatologist or us going across the border to get treated for that. And I wanted to be the alternative to the medicine.
Yes, yes. I love all you're speaking my love language, so I love it. What is so with your now having a decade of experience of being in aesthetics, do you have a success story that is so memorable to you that someone's just had a life altering change that you're like, this is incredible with one of your clients? One that
I've
stands
had,
out?
yes, so I've had two clients actually go into aesthetic school. And I've been trying to recruit them, but they do other things too. And I'm like, oh, but you're my baby. You have to come back
Yeah,
to me.
yes,
um,
right.
yes, and I've had so those are the most memorable ones. But I've had I've started a lot of virtual recently, and now I have a client who's in the Virgin Islands. I have a client who's in Sweden. Um, and so those girls, when they come, they have family here. They'll come back and see me, and it's just so cool to be like, oh, like you're at the Virgin Islands. She's studying to be a vet. And then I have another girl who's a foreign exchange student in Sweden, and her not her husband. I hope it's gonna be her husband soon. Her boyfriend lives over there. He's like a professional golfer. So just having like now knowing that I have people across the world who I've impacted, who I might never see again, is
Yeah,
the coolest thing ever. But honestly, all of my clients are success stories. Everybody that's clear, and I've just seen their lives change for the positive. And getting those text messages saying thank you so much, getting those glowing reviews, that's what keeps it going. Because, like I said, sometimes you do get burned out, and I'm tired. I have 4 days a week where I'm doing 12-hour shifts. I go from my regular 8 to 5 job right into the clinic, and I'm there till 9 p.m. And that's time away from my family, my children, my husband, my dog. Um, and they're all my other friends. But once you have that, and that, it just changes your world. You can't stop. It's kind of like a drug. Like you get addicted
yeah.
to helping people and being empathetic to them and understanding where they're coming from. And I think it's really been successful for me because I completely understand. Like when they're crying, I want to cry with them. And when I say I know how you feel, I truly 100% feel it, know it. And this job is a lot about energy too, and I do feed off of my clients' energy. When they're not feeling happy, when they're crying, I get that and I feel that, and it hurts. And so once they're happy and they're transformed, I mean, it lifts your spirits and you want to keep
Life
going.
changing. Yeah, different from being in the courtroom as a prosecutor. I'm sure different energy.
Yeah, nobody really likes me there. I can count on my fingers how many times I've been thinking, and maybe that's why I love this and I don't want to stop doing it, because it's the way maybe that it makes me feel good and it
Yeah,
fills me up. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I just do love it a lot.
I do too. So the after so next year, this makes me feel like so old. Like, oh my gosh, like I started in the industry in 1995, which is ridiculous. Like, how has it been? Like going on 30 years? Like, what? How is that possible? But I have to tell you that the love, the positive, making a positive contribution to society, knowing that we undervalue the power of human connection and touch. And I know the pandemic kind of brought it to the forefront because people were isolated and that just the human connection was not a piece of it. But the role that aesthetics plays in making people just feel better through the power of touch, clearing their skin, making them feel better. I know every esthetician has a story about their clients, and you're being a therapist and you're also fixing their skin, but they're telling about their boyfriends and their husband and the kids and the dog. And can you believe she did that? And you're like getting all that aspect of it too. It's like a reality TV show meets this, but the overwhelming positive contribution that you make to somebody, you literally change your life. And it's a different energy from somebody that wants to buy the $100 eye cream so they can look younger. There is that aspect of it. And yes, great. She uses the $100 eye cream. She's happy with it. It's a different energy when you help somebody with acne. They need you. They need your products. They need your services. It's a different exchange. And they're just walking billboards to like support your business and refer somebody with acne. I went to Priscilla, you need to go to Yuma Acne Clinic because she's going to help fix your face and get off those drugs. They're not going to serve you in the big picture. Like, I get it. Okay. So look at us. We could be talking for hours and hours. How do you, so you mentioned earlier that you're staying up to speed with trends, attending a trade show. What is your go-to, Griselda, for like staying up to speed on techniques, products? Are you just like on a Friday night, like I'm just going to do a Google search and find a new podcast to listen to? Or like, do you have a go-to where you're looking for information?
Usually the lines that I'm working with is where I try and seek the information, any continuing education, because when I'm talking to a client and I'm going to try and retell them a product, I better know my stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's how you build
Yes.
trust. That's how you build reputation. And so usually that's what I'm doing on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Now, as far as the podcast, I just listen to a bunch of them. I just go and listen. There's Skin Theory by Emmy Diane. She's from Scottsdale. I love her. I actually, when I was living in Phoenix, I would go see her. And that's kind of like, well, I can do this too, you know?
Yeah.
And then your podcast, and just there's various on Spotify that I listen to. And then I just kind of pick one and just listen to it. And there's like lots of pausing and stuff. But literally, we drive so much. So
We're in the car a lot.
you can finish a 1 hour episode in like a day or two, just, coming and going. I'm going to go to lunch. There's 10 minutes. And so that's kind of how I keep, because I am very busy. And so that's why I kind of keep my lunch hours at least once a week to listen to a Zoom or whatever is being, given by the companies I work for, or I just listen to the podcast.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great tool. And I love that, with the podcasting world, if people want to watch it on YouTube, if you want to watch it on Spotify, I didn't realize, Spotify kind of moving in, like doing the video aspect of it. Or if you just want to listen on Apple in your car and do that, the idea, so that it's interesting, when one of our first podcast episodes, she goes, David, I actually listen to your podcast while I'm doing my treatments. While she's like doing massage and stuff. She's like, I was listening to your podcast and I thought, oh, interesting. Okay, so it does need to be just not in YouTube land. It needs to go to Apple and iHeart and Amazon, wherever they made it actually easy for people to get podcasts wherever they want and on your own schedule.
And also, just even on Instagram, just following other estheticians that do acne.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll post stuff that they're doing, and that's how I get ideas too.
Yes, I love it. We all got to get ideas. Do you have you come in contact with any DIY clients that have come in with a DIY, do it yourself sort of, and you're like, what are you doing? Do you have a story about a DIY client?
Well, my clients are pretty good, but they've done like the beef tallow, the slugging,
Yes.
These Korean masks, which, I'm fine with some of them, but then they're like adding apple cider vinegar. And I'm like, no. That lives in your fridge. That's for your food.
Yeah.
So just educating is a big thing. But luckily, I don't think I've had like nightmares or anything like that.
Yeah.
Occasionally, they'll ask me. And, if it's a client who doesn't have issues, I'm like, well, you do you. But if it's a client that's in acne, I'm like, absolutely not. I strongly advise you don't do that. But then it's their personal choice.
Right. I lovingly refer to for the acne community, slugging is plugging. I'm like, no, 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 nope. Slugging is plugging. And the beef tallow thing, it's a hot topic. I'm like, you guys, if you knew how it was derived, where it came from, it is an animal derived product, obviously. And it's not for acne prone skin. So I just want to make that clear because I've had a lot of people say, oh no, this has helped with my acne. Do not be recommending beef tallow to your acne prone clients. It's not going to get them where they want to go. It's probably going to make things a little bit worse. So just, you know, keep it moving, keep yourself educated. Don't get crazy. So looking ahead, Griselda, what changes do you anticipate in the field of aesthetics? So you're, having a decade of experience and being able to see the things that have kind of gone. I have an idea as I'm watching kind of the 30,000-foot view of what's going on, but do you have any ideas of where the field of aesthetics is going now that we're going into 2025?
I think people, even our clients, are more educated and they're looking for what ingredients are we putting in our body. They're looking for those vegan lines. They're looking for those organic lines. They're looking for clean ingredients. So I think a lot of, manufacturers, pharmaceuticals, hopefully, but just the cosmetic industry is moving more in that direction, which is good. As far as estheticians, I do feel like the world of virtual is going to open up for us. Virtual consult, I've dabbled into that. I've started. It's not where I wanted to be yet, but just being able to treat someone who's maybe in New York, being someone in Texas, someone in New Hampshire. Um, that's so cool because we have electronics, we can ship products. So I think you can still make a business virtually without even having like a studio. Like, how cool is that? You
Yeah.
couldn't say that 20, 30 years ago. But now
Well,
literally you can work from home and have your little stock of products at home, your retail that you can ship to your clients. So the possibilities are endless. So for those new estheticians that are like, oh, I don't even know, I don't have money for a building, maybe you start from home and maybe you start virtually and that's your target audience and you build your Instagram or your social media around that. So I do think that's something that hopefully some of us can move into in the
yes,
future.
it is. It's definitely an option. So the virtual aspect of it. So I've seen people crash and burn, like trying to just have a whole virtual business right out of the gate. And I'm like, you guys, I don't want to discredit what happens in your treatment rooms. Like you can obviously extractions, chemical exfoliation, having a up close skin evaluation by a professional, a licensed esthetician is going to be a different situation than seeing somebody on Zoom. That being said, if you're in Sweden or the Virgin Islands and you need assistance because there's nobody locally that can help you, of course, like let that be a part of your business that you can do that. Obviously, you can do it from the comfort of your office. It's awesome. I'll tell you, Griselda, the thing that has been the most interesting from a social media perspective as a brand owner, watching what's happening in the space. 2019, I started looking at what was going on just in social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, like what was happening, like what was going on with like quote unquote influencers. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh my, I didn't even know some of this stuff existed. I was like, I didn't even know who Jeffree Star was. And I'm like watching, right, his brand. So now I say, there's a lot of the quote unquote influencers that have developed brands and they've already gone away. The celebrity, every celebrity launching a brand, launch, that's going away. They're just, they're cash grabs, usually celebrity cash grabs, partnership with Guthrie Ranker, promoting like they used to own Proactive back in the day. And they can make a lot of money quickly and then it just kind of fizzles out. And the emphasis going back on you, the licensed professional, as a place to get information, and as opposed to getting it from TikTok or from some random person on YouTube, that the followers are not necessarily authentic. That's what I've seen a lot of like, this actually isn't true. And so these brands have sort of faulted. And I've said to the aesthetic community, this actually benefits you. So people are going back to you are the professional. So the influencers in the social media world, they're always going to be somewhere talking about something, but it's sort of lost its, consumers are getting smarter and not just so like, okay, I'm just going to listen to this random person here. Like I would rather go to Griselda's page and look at something that she's posting, because that's a legitimate source of information about something that's actually working, and look at some really cool before and after. So I love all of that. All right, let me just look here and see if there's any last thing that I want to get in here, because I want to be respectful of your time. So as we end this, Griselda, can you share with the listeners how, like, what's been your biggest success point with building your client base? So your first book of business, what has been your best sort of advice for new people on how to actually build their initial book of business?
Customer service, word of mouth. I mean, you can go to
Yes.
my Instagram page, and I actually don't have as many followers as some other people do. However, I am booked. Now
Yes.
I brought someone in, so my strategy is going to change because I need to market that person. I never had to do that myself, but now I have to do it for my new employee. So, I've never had to take brand pictures or anything like that. And now I'm moving into that direction. I need to get on that boat, right? Social media presence. Um, but really, like I mentioned before, if I had a client before, if I had two clients, sometimes I would have one client a day, and my world revolved around them because
Yeah.
that one person at the end of the day referred me 10 other people, and that's how my business grew. So you treat every single person, from your richest client to your not richest client. I have clients, kids that are in college, they're just struggling to make ends meet, that work at Walmart. Then I have doctors' wives coming to see me. You see, so there's a range, but everybody has to be treated the same, with the same dignity, respect. Um, like they're your number one when they're there, and you need a product, and it's an emergency, because when we have acne, everything's an emergency. Nothing can wait till tomorrow. Like, it needs to be gone, like, now. And that's
Yeah.
the thing with people with acne, that if you treat acne, you need to understand we are not patient. And obviously it didn't happen overnight. It's not going to go overnight. And that's the talks you have to talk to your clients. Your clients will usually hate you from weeks 4 to 8 if they're encouraging. And I tell them, you will hate me. You're not going to want to come back, but just get through this with me. It's a lot of talking them through the process and checking in with them. Like,
Yes.
just pick up your cell phone and check in with them and say, hey, how are you doing? Especially if you had a very emotional appointment. Check in with them. How are you doing? They appreciate that. And not everybody gives a person a time of day. Like, when's the last time you had an appointment with your doctor and then they had a follow up with you and text you, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How's that shoulder feeling? So be the difference. Show them how you're different. And that's how you're going to differentiate yourself from that one esthetician to the other esthetician. Not that the other one's bad, but my phone, I live on my phone, unfortunately, for good and for bad. But I am
Yeah.
constantly texting and following up with my clients. And that, I think, has been key to my success, and treating everybody the same. I am as strict with everybody. I enforce policies across the board, whether you're my best friend who came and saw me or a new client. They know the way I run my business is the way I run my business. And I think you have to earn respect. And that's how I earned my respect. And if I need to drive on a Sunday night to meet them, to give them a product, I will do it if I can.
Yeah. And you'll tell them to plan better next time.
Yes, I do. I usually now post, guys, I will be on vacation for the next 7 days. Please don't wait till the last minute. I start letting them know ahead of time. I'll be
Yeah,
gone.
don't run out of your products, you guys, when you have acne, because it's not, you got to stay on top of it, stay on top of it. Well,
Yes.
I love all of those things, Griselda. It's been so awesome to have this conversation with you, because I was so excited when you told me your initial story. I was like, this is such a unique story, and it will resonate with people. Pearls of wisdom all throughout this whole entire thing. Where can people find you? Social media, website, all the fun stuff.
So my website is www.yumaacneclinic.com. Super easy. You can shop there. I ship all over the US. You can book services there. You can buy gift cards there. And then my Instagram is at Yuma Acne Clinic. Super easy. My Facebook is Yuma Acne Clinic LLC. So you can like my page. And then I do have a new employee. Her name is Isabel. And you can find her at, I'm looking to the left because I wrote it, Wax and Glow by Isabel.
Wax and
And she
Glow
will
by
be posting anything she does in our clinic. So the reason I brought Isabel, I'm still the one treating the acne, and she's helping me with some back facials, acne stuff like that. But once I'm done clearing my acne, clients, of course, they want to move into anti-aging. Like, it never stops, right? We continue
Yep.
treating your skin. And so in order for me to be able to get new acne clients and not there be a long waiting list, I brought Isabel to kind of help those clients navigate through the anti-aging relaxing process while still maintaining all of their protocol acne safe. And that's where Isabel comes into place. And she's great at waxing, which I'm not. So she's offering that as well.
Yes. Complimentary service provider to your business for things that you don't want to do. Not everybody loves waxing. So the advice I give to when I go speak at aesthetic schools, I'm like, when you're doing these things, do you love it? Do you want to get more? Do you want to do more lashes? Do you want to do more waxing? If you hate those things, don't make that part of your wheelhouse, because you're not going to want to do it and you're not going to be great at it. Find something you're passionate about and dive in deep with more, because I'm depending on what state, we have all this estheticians from all over the country now. Like, some of them are going for like 200 plus hour programs. And then you've got master estheticians in Utah, like where they have a master aesthetics program. The education's all over the board. So I'm like, just keep getting your education, you guys. It's great. It's awesome.
Right. Find that one thing you're passionate about. I tell everybody, I mean, including Esteban, who just started with me, I said, I want you to be an expert in 2 things. After that, if there's time and you want to be an expert on a third thing, great. Because when somebody's thinking about acne, I want them to think of me. When somebody's thinking about an acne safe anti-aging facial, I want them to think about you. When someone's thinking about the best waxer in Yuma, I want them to think about you. And so if you start doing too many things, you're never going to get really good at that one thing. You're going to be okay, but until you pick 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things, that's when you'll be really, really good. And that's how you're going to be able to differentiate yourselves from the other estheticians around you.
Yes, which is sort of like an expectation now, you guys, as you're thinking about your business. It really is the customer service aspect of it, going above and beyond to meet your clients where they're at. Like, and really, we used to call it raving fan service. Like, if a celebrity walked in, how would you treat them? Your clients are your celebrities. So everyone should be treated like that as you're building your business. Like, people want to feel special. Amazing, amazing
They're
advice.
your walking billboards. They're
They
your
are your
best
walking
marketing.
billboards.
They're
And
the best marketing.
you're never going to replace referral, a word of mouth referral. Doesn't matter how much money you spend on social media, how glossy your brochure, your menu, it doesn't matter. Your word of mouth clients are priceless. And because you have this relationship, we can't undervalue that experience. It is your walking, talking, breathing billboards
And
for your
ask
business.
them, whenever you have a new client, ask them who referred you to me, and thank the one who referred them. I always be like, in Christmas, I'll give them a free product. I might give them a
Yeah.
moisturizer. Yeah, I
Yes.
might be out $15-20, but you know what? They brought me like $300-400, So
Right.
be very
Yes.
thankful and appreciative, and they will remember that.
Yes. 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 All right. Hold out for just a second. Thank you so much, Griselda. This has been awesome.